Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Built Not Given Show. I'm your host, Jake Strickland, and today I want to answer a question that I get asked a ton, and that question is, how do I start? How do I start the business, the career, the relationship, or maybe the next chapter? And the more and more I reflect on that question and the more and more experience that I gain under my belt, the more I realize there isn't a universal answer. Everybody's path starts differently. Everybody's path is different. Everybody's reason is different. But I do believe there are some common things that every successful person has. And one of them is eventually that they stopped looking through the door and they walked through it. And to give you a couple examples, I'll go through a couple of my reinventions. And by that, I mean times that I just kind of did a 180 on who I was. And the first one started my senior year. I realized that I had to have 9 credits in a 7 period schedule. I was either going to have to go to school after school, which I absolutely hated, or I was going to have to give up baseball, give up the standard school system, and get into a co op type situation. But in doing so, I also got into construction. And when I made the decision to do that, I didn't have a blueprint or a roadmap. All I had was a decision that was made. And I knew that finishing my senior year and finishing that year of construction, it was no longer optional. So what I had to do was show up day after day and week after week. There was no going back and taking back that decision. And truth be told, I wouldn't take back that decision. It was the best decision I ever made because this led me to where I'm at now. But flash forward to the end of that year, absolutely loved construction, but I did realize that it was not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So when school ended, another door opened, and that door was real estate. And truth be, I don't know why I got into real estate. When people ask me, I wish I had an answer, but I don't. I don't remember exactly what led me to it. But again, it was one of those things that I made a decision and I had to show up day after day. I left a job that I was making pretty good money at, way more money than any 18-year-old should make. I had a truck payment and about $1,500 in my pocket. I didn't have any certainty, I didn't have any guarantees, and I had no clue what I was doing. Why anybody trusted me back then, I don't know. But I will say this, I showed up for every client that I had. So if you're a client that I had when I was 18, I promise everything went good. I did show up for you. I had the help luckily with my office. And I looking back, I realized that a lot of those decisions that I made with the going into construction, homeschooling, and getting into real estate, I didn't know why I was doing it, but I knew that if I didn't, I'd regret it. And that's led me to realize that the majority of my decisions that they're not made on certainty. They're made because I know that that's what I have to do. And I think a lot of people get caught in that little window of trying to have the certainty, even though they've got the conviction of, I know this is what I need to do, but I need the reasons on why I need to do it. And I don't think that we need those reasons. I think our heart and our mind and our gut tells us more than any reason ever will. But flash forward to today, my business is growing, the podcast is growing, I'm living on my own, making more money than any 21-year-old should make. Truth be told, I spend it in semi dumb ways and then try to justify it to friends. One friend, he, I was talking to him today. Love him to death. I mean, he's a great guy. But he's like, dude, you spend money like an idiot. I was like, yeah, I know, but I bought something that's like $500, or I bought something for $100 that's worth $500, and I don't think it matters. I think it's okay. I was going to spend $100 on something stupid. Might as well spend it on something that's worth 500 when I only bought it for 100. Anyway, I just kind of went down a rabbit hole there. I was trying to get him in the episode he told me to today. I'm sorry, guys. But a quick reality check is where I'm at now did not happen because I made a decision. Where I'm at happened because I've shown up every day. is because I once I walked through the door and once I got hit with that overwhelming uncertainty of I have no idea where I'm at or what I'm doing, I figured it out. That means we'll use real estate terms, but obviously these are interchangeable for whatever decision you make, whatever position that you're in, or wherever you want to go. But mine was learning the contracts, making the calls, getting ignored, getting cussed out, putting just an massive amount of miles on every vehicle I own, showing houses to people that probably weren't going to buy, but I needed to build that experience. It was long days. I had no immediate reward. And truth be told, I was wondering if I made a mistake for a while. And I still wonder if I made a mistake. I don't think I did, but that thought, it's always going to creep up on me. And I think that one thing is everybody wants that new life. They want the result that that new life can give them. If I would have known where I was going to be at now when I started, I would not be where I'm at now. The only reason I'm at where I'm at now is because when I started, had nothing. Like I said, I had a truck payment and $1,500 in my pocket, no idea what I was doing. And if I didn't start out like that, I don't think I'd be where I'm at now. But as I was putting together this episode, I started to realize that there were a lot of lessons I learned along the way. But what I also learned was that it wasn't the construction that was the lesson. It wasn't the homeschooling that was the lesson. And it isn't real estate that's the lesson. The lesson was I learned to trust myself. I learned that I don't need every answer before I start. And you don't either. Because once you've reinvented yourself once, you realize you can do it again. And once you've done it twice, you realize the fear that comes along with that, it never really leaves. It just becomes the new normal. And whenever something becomes normal, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. The uncertainty, it never goes away. You just become better at carrying it. And the one thing is, you're never going to be ready. You can have all the answers. You can have a plan laid out. But the problem is, you can't wait until you're ready. Because ready never comes. I'm never ready. I'm never ready for what's going to happen. But I'm confident in my ability to figure it out. And I wasn't confident when I started. Confidence came through the getting rejected, getting cussed out, showing up day after day with no reward. And my motivation has changed along the way too. In the beginning, it was about making money. I was broke and I had bills. I had something to prove. But then the first checks started to come in, and I started accomplishing what I thought I wanted. And then the motivation changed. The motivation I have now is I don't care about proving people wrong. I don't care about I don't care about making money. I know that's weird. What I care about now is showing other people what's possible. I want people to know that anything that you want is out there. The life you want, the job you want, the career you want, the family you want. It's all out there, but you can't wait until you're ready because you'll never be ready. How can you be ready for something you don't know about? How can you be ready for something you don't understand? I don't believe most people are missing talent or intelligence. or opportunity. I think they're missing that, missing the ability to begin when confidence and uncertainty don't exist. Like I said in the beginning, I wish I could give you a blanket answer on how to start. But the truth is I don't know what your path is, and I don't know what your opportunity is. And I don't know what you want for your next chapter. But I do know this. Every meaningful thing in my life has started the exact same way. Without confidence, without certainty, without any guarantees, and not knowing exactly how it would work. What it started with was a decision. And after that decision became the first step. And after that first step was the next one. And then it was the next one. And then eventually you'll look around and realize that the life you imagine is the one that you're living. Not because you had all the answers, not because you were ready, but because you were willing to begin. That's all I've got for y'all today. I hope you have a great week. This episode, again, hopefully you gained something from it. But I'm going to repeat myself is there's not a blanket approach. You just got to show up day after day, week after week. And if you've known me or if you've listened to the podcast before, you know I like to say, win the day. If you win every day, you win the week. If you win the week, you win the month. And if you win the month, you win the year. And if you stack enough years, you'll eventually win the life.